the traditional owners of our country throughout Turtle Island and pays its respect to elders, past and present and future. We want to take this time to acknowledge our traditional owners and ancestors of these lands we reside on here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, Pueblo people, and wherever you are beaming in from. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners and ancestors of the lands you are out so we could be here today. Indigenous Ways is dedicated to bridging cultures globally and exchange with people globally and drop walls of separation globally. We all bleed the same blood, it's red, and we have 5 fingers. In Navajo, Balashtlai, the 5 fingered ones. That's who we are. So happy New Year 2021. What a day. Woo, woo, woo. We made it. We made
Happy
it, you
New Year.
guys. This
Yeah.
is amazing. Today's an important day. My grandfather, Samuel Dalton, passed away in 1985 on this day. He was 85 years old. And on this day, New Mexico became a state. And a lot of good things happen on this day. My grandfather is in the spirit world. It was a sad day for me when he passed. So, thank you all for being with us live, either via Zoom or on one of our many social media platforms. If you are watching the recording of this, thank you for your time. And it's a new year, and many wonderful new beginnings are happening, including the format of Indigenous Ways Wisdom Circle. Firstly, our theme has changed. Remember last year? It was Rising in Resilience. Well, guess what it is this year? Thriving in Purpose. We will be moderating these sessions so our presenters will not be talking into the dark or into the light or into the camera. They'll actually have somebody to look at when they're talking. So that's what the difference is. And we'll be asking some pointed questions, kind of spontaneous, but kind of not. So this evening, we'd like to go ahead and invite you to say hello and don't turn on your camera yet, but we want to welcome Terry Gomez, our Comanche sister. She hails from Oklahoma, the great state of Oklahoma. She resides in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She teaches full time at SIPI. Don't ask me what it stands for. I can tell you there's a bunch of Indians over there learning a bunch of new stuff. That's kind of like the big thing, man. If you're on the reservation, man, when I grow up, I want to go to SIPI or IAIA. Anyways, so Terry's a full time teacher. And on top of that, Terry is also an amazing Indigenous woman that believes in theater. So, with that, we're going to talk about some different stuff this evening. And hello, Terry. Welcome.
But anyway, hello everyone. Nice to see you all. Thank you for being here. So, what would you like to start talking about?
Oh, gosh. I just wanted to ask you, how did you get involved in theater?
Oh man. Okay. Well, how I got involved in theater. You can give me a sign if I talk too long because I can talk for hours. I tell you, I'm a teacher, so seems like I would be tired. Today was our first day at the Southwestern Indian Polytechnic Institute in Albuquerque, and had 2 classes today. So I've been online all day, so hard to keep my eyes open. But all right. So how I got involved in theater was really a fluke. I wanted to be a writer almost all of my life, and when I would tell my mother, of course, way back in 1968. I wanted to be a writer. Mama Day and Silko were not big um, hits yet in the literature world. They were just coming up. And so there were really not any Native writers acknowledged around, and nobody knew any Native writers. And my mom looked at me like I was crazy because I told her I want to be a writer. I read all the time and told me no, tried to discourage it. So I studied other things. I was going into sociology after that at UNM, but I kept wanting to paint and write. And after I had my second child, I was already 31. And I told my husband at the time, I'm going to go to IAIA in Santa Fe. I want to write. And this is what I need to do with my life. And he was agreeable at that point. And so I did. And when I went in, I was signing up late. And the only two classes left were acting and playwriting. Nothing I had any interest in. I like movies. I didn't go to the theater very often. I had only seen a couple of plays, and but I was in ballet in my early years, and I went to the ballet often as I could. And but I was not interested in theater at all because I would see, our town and all the old theater that was, I guess, still considered classic, and I just wasn't that interested in it. So when I got into these classes, I was also, and I still am very much an introvert, very shy. And so I went in there. I didn't want to take acting at all, and I was really kind of angry that I was in there. So in the playwriting class, I wrote a monologue about the changes I had seen in our tribal with our ceremony and our powwows and things like that. A lot of other cultures were coming in, and there were some gang members there. When before, just a couple of years before, I moved away from Oklahoma to go seek my fortune. Um, there was just our tribal people. Everybody knew where families were camped, and there were no other outsiders there. So it was, not that there's nothing wrong with outsiders being at our doings, but it just wasn't going on when I was home. And just in a couple of years, it had changed. So I wrote a monologue about this young woman asking her grandmother, why do we have to change? Why do things have to change? And, um, you know, things are supposed to be getting better, but in reality, having gang members at a powwow and people getting shot and hurt, that's not getting better. So, what is progress? And all these questions in a monologue to her grandmother, talking about how our culture was changing really rapidly. And so, after I wrote it, we had to read them in class, and I got up and read it reluctantly. And I was leaving, so I wadded it up and I threw it in the trash, and my instructor at the time told me, what are you doing? And I said, throwing my paper away. And he said, get it out. And I told him, no, I'm not getting that out. He said, get it out because you're going to finish it. And within the next year, it was at the Public Theater in New York City getting a reading. So it was just then from then on, I'm like, you know what? If I can do this, we need other people out there to do this because we need to hear their voices just as well as mine. We have a lot to say, we have a lot of issues to deal with, and let's deal with them. So
Oh,
somehow it sucked me in, and I'm like, okay. So I went along on this very strange journey that it's been.
wow, that is amazing. Isn't that amazing how sometimes things just start with a monologue? I
Yeah.
can relate to that very much so. So the next question I'm going to pose for you is why is Native theater important?
Oh, well, again, like I was saying, um, I guess in a way, it wasn't necessarily theater. I was more interested in film because, at that time I lived in a very small town in Oklahoma, Anadarko, and we had one TV channel, so most of our time was spent outside. And at that time, when I was coming along, maybe about 12 years old, the American Indian movement hit. And a lot of my older cousins and sister and relatives were involved. Um, a lot of people would say militant, but to me it was necessary because I wasn't learning any kind of anything about my culture. Of course, I was immersed in it because I was fortunate enough to have 7 sets of grandparents that I was very close to. So I really didn't have to like search for my culture. But even as a young girl, I understood the need for seeing natives represented accurately in books, in textbooks. There was, every time you'd see an Indian in the movies in those days, we were getting shot or killed or, in some way still seen as savage, heathen, and so forth. And I thought, there's got to be, somebody that's willing to tell the truth about our people because we're so, there's so many aspects, so many avenues that we're going down right now, and people are changing, but it's all the same thing all the time. Even our theater was the Redskin, one of our theaters in Anadarko, and would all go down to the Redskin and watch Indians get shot. So I
Oh.
thought there's got to be a way to tell our stories, and now there is, and not only in film but in theater we have, Tash. I think there were, when I first started writing, there were maybe about 10 to 15 other people writing. And I think now, what, there's 60, 70, 80 native playwrights anymore. There's quite a few. And, I was just like, wow. So I didn't expect it to, I knew that we could, but I didn't expect it to be as large as it's becoming. And I'm really glad that it is, and to see natives represented accurately in theater and film is just amazing to me after, seeing us depicted in so many terrible ways. And, it affects our self esteem, it affects our identity, it affects our children as they're growing up and to still see and hear things like that, because really it's racism. And when people, I don't know how many Hollywood people would give me the comment of, people are just not interested in Native Americans. You're what do they say? Fighting your way up the hill, fighting an uphill battle. And I thought, I don't care. I'm going to keep talking about it and keep talking about it because somebody's got to listen at some point. And I figure, that's kind of my purpose here. Was I told my students, well, I didn't really get really famous, but that was never my idea anyway. In fact,
Hmm.
the idea of living that kind of, somebody once told me I needed to go to Hollywood and be an actor when I was way younger, And I thought, I had two children, I was a single parent, and I thought, yeah, that's really flattering and everything, but in reality, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to drag my kids around and looking for some kind of false hope and then playing, at the time, not a lot of native parts. So probably, an old woman sitting on the side of the road or something like that. I'm like, no thanks. I'm just gonna stay put and see what happens here. So I really, I feel like if my job wasn't to become some great Hollywood star or whatever, I thought my job was to help kick the door in for the people that are coming in now and fighting for their right to have a voice and have a place in native film and theater. So I guess that's how I see myself anyway.
So that is so wonderful to hear. Two things. I had a friend over from DC, Judy Shapiro, and I wanted her to watch a black and white silent film that I enjoy watching. I said, "Can you watch this with me?" She says, "Yeah, sure." So we're watching it, and we're just, for me, I'm interested on what did the world look like in 1916 or whatever. And I saw some Native Americans in the film, and they were dressed in their native regalia. And guess what? They were drunks. So yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. And that kind of made me sad, but that's nothing new. So the next thing that I wanted to ask you about is, how do you write your plays? Where do you start? And maybe even, where did you learn? Did you have a template or a teacher or a mentor or class, or how did all that get going? And maybe what are some resources for others?
Well, I have a Master of Fine Arts in playwriting, dramatic writing. One time I said dramatic writing, and somebody said Germanic writing. I'm like, yeah, I'm Comanche and I'm studying Germanic writing. No, dramatic, I need to enunciate better. dramatic writing. I have an MFA from UNM, and I got my BFA from IAIA, all these acronyms. But I took playwriting classes, and then there were a lot of people, Bruce King, the late Bruce King being
Oh,
one, and his wife, and several other people, students at the time. We were in these playwriting classes and acting classes, and we would get together at people's houses, and people would read their monologues or read their plays rather, and we'd all sit around and read a part. We'd go up to the mountains and do acting theater exercises and just be crazy together, and it was a lot of fun. I had such a lot of fun in the beginning. Well, I still do, but I enjoy it. But we really had a lot of fun, and that's what really attracted me and kept me interested. I think at the time, I thought I was old, but I was 30 years old, 31, 32, still very young. And I really enjoyed learning and kind of just took to it. I didn't think I ever would act, but once you crawl on the ground in front of people, in front of the whole college, you can pretty much do anything. So that was one of my characters parts. I had to crawl around in the auditorium, and all these people were looking at me, and I was like, I can do anything now. So, but let's see. I think I'm probably getting off track here.
no, it's okay. It's all good.
Okay. So what was the question again? Sorry.
Well, basically, like, how do you write your plays? Do you like come up
Oh,
with a character, or do you do a traditional, beginning, middle, end? Or I know you
well,
said you did a monologue, but like,
yeah. I learned the formatting, and once I got that down, um, I don't know. It's gonna sound crazy, but there's just characters that talk in my head all the time. It's not fun a lot of the time because I don't write everything down or every character. But
oh,
if I'm really thinking about a certain issue, right now I'm kind of thinking about the missing and murdered. There's only been two plays that I know of. One that's published. They've been produced, but one that's published, but I don't see a lot of Native people writing about that. And that's because I think, how do you write about that without exploiting? And that is something that I don't want to do. I've written about violence against women and children almost my whole career. And I have 11 plays, and I would say that more than half of them are about violence toward women and children. And so I don't know. My ideas come in, and if I can think about it, and that's my problem right now with teaching all the time. My mind's always on academics.
mm,
So I don't have a lot of time, or is not enough as I need to really sit down and write a new play. But I don't know. I feel like it's percolating, and pretty soon, once I get a good idea, a strong idea, then the voices just kind of come, and I start thinking, okay, I'm gonna write some of this down before I forget. And I don't know, it's really a weird way to work, but sometimes when I was right in the middle of something, I felt like I just tilted my head, and somebody was telling me what to write, and I was like, okay, and I was writing it down. And it was my ancestors in my play, The Comanche Women. The ancestors were telling me exactly what they needed to say, and I was like, all right, I get it. So that's what I feel like anyway. Probably, I don't know. I have a strange mind anyway, so things come in weird ways, I guess you could say. So,
wow, that's beautiful. That is so awesome. There's several questions I want to ask you, and we don't have that much time left. So I will just go right to the question of what are Comanches known for? And you mentioned a play where your ancestors came through for you as the voices, and that's really beautiful. But how does your heritage and culture seep into your writing, and how does it influence your writing?
okay. Well, I think, like I was saying, I kind of had my immediate family. my father was a very dysfunctional person. But I had seven sets of grandparents, and I was very close to about three or four of them. My mom, in fact, would probably get tired of me and tell me, "Do you want to go see grandma, whoever," one day? And I'd be like, "Yes." And she would just drop me off, and I'd stay there the whole day playing in their yard and helping them do chores and whatever they were doing. I'd be glued to them because I loved them so much, and I felt very secure and very loved with them. So they always inspire, I would say, because for the Comanche, we are paternal. Paternal. The men are basically, or used to be, more in charge in our communities. They still are in families and things like that, but the women are, as all cultures are, the women are stepping forward more and more, and being recognized more and more. But the women were very strong in my family. They would, when we'd have tribal meetings, the women wouldn't say anything, but before we would go, they would tell their husband, "You say this, and you make sure you say it, and you say it right, and you do this, and you say this." And the husbands were like, "Yes, okay, okay." And I was about 8 or 9, and I'd be sitting there, really watching my grandparents. And sure enough, when we'd get to the meeting, my grandpa would stand up and say exactly what my grandmother told him to say. And so I thought, after I thought about it, I thought these women were not quiet. They were very strong, and they were also artistic. They were beaters, and they made all our regalia, and or either they were cooks and cooked everything from scratch, and like the most amazing food you ever ate. So they all had talents, and they were all, even though they didn't work like in a 9 to 5, they were all working all day
Mm-hmm.
long, and I just admired them beyond anything. So I would have to say that my elders are always my inspiration. My mother just turned 95 on the 4th. So I only got to see her through the window she was staying with my sister now, and that was hard. But another example, she was a nurse for 40 years and then became a docent for the museums in Santa Fe because she knew a lot about history, about the objects in the museums. And then she became a full-time Comanche language teacher.
Oh,
And
wow.
she still does that now and then, but she's at 95, she's slowing down a little bit. So, she's still, another point of inspiration for me and my children. Of course, I was an overprotective mom. My kids are in their 30s, and I still, call them up. "I haven't heard from you in 2 days. Where are you?" So, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So it's really about my family and my community that I grew up in. Everything seems to generate from there.
Awesome. That is so beautiful, Terry. So the next question that I have is in regards to Native theater, Indigenous theater, Turtle Island theater, whatever we want to call it, theater that deals with people that are the original inhabitants of this land and our cultures and the way it goes with respect. Is there a discrepancy between young and old, or young and wise, or is there a indigenous collective with respect, and there's no barriers to age like say in the Western culture?
I think that if there is a discrepancy, once you get into the theater and you forget about who you are and you start turning into your character, I think the discrepancy becomes smaller. And the younger people that are interested in theater are often interested in their culture as well. And so I think that it joins us together more than anything. And I really enjoyed teaching at IAIA when we could do. I was doing something it's a little bit ridiculous if you are trained in Western theater, because I have had people tell me you can't do that, but I thought, yes, I can. They don't realize that native performance has gone on since the beginning of time, because we, We are our base is the spiritual. It goes to our language, our dances, our songs, the way we treat each other. So our base is a
Mm.
spiritual. And then we go into family, and then we go into community. And then, it in our community enlarges, our circles get bigger. Sorry, I'm ah, too much teaching today. Our circles get bigger, they expand as we go into the world because we're a part of the world, regardless of what people tell us or not. We are a part of the world. And so when we go into the world like that, um, we're, we, we're still close to our family. But I think if we have been enmeshed and bring our children along with us. And that doesn't mean just our specific children, but our students, our communities, and everything like that. I think that's where, there's such a divide of all kinds in this country, and it's quite shocking. A lot of the time when you sit down and think about it, but most of us don't have time to sit down and think about it. We're just like all running around. But thinking about the race protests and riots over the summer, I thought, why do people feel like there's a superiority and then there's a distinction beyond class distinction even, and why do we even have class distinction? And people will right away socialist. I thought, no, that's an indigenous perspective. Everybody is sacred. We are all sacred people. But what happened? There's people that are saying, I'm not sacred, so I'm going to kill you. And, I'm just like, I don't understand. So, this is something that I've been grappling with a long time is about what divides people. And it's probably why I'm such an introvert. I just like stay put, stay to myself because, I don't understand a lot of the way people think and how this division happens and how people think they're better than the next people and on and on and on. So I think that things like theater and working together, and at first when I started doing native theater, I was like, no other people of color need to even look in here, have that kind of attitude or superiority thing myself. But after being working in the field of literature and theater for such a long time, um, I see more similarity than differences of people.
Mm.
And it's just, trying to get other people to wake up and open their eyes and look around and see that as well, that we have more similarities than we do differences. And we are all different at the same time, which is extremely beautiful.
Mm.
And yeah, so maybe that's, I don't know, a part of it all as well. I hope I'm not going to, I feel like I'm rambling.
No,
Sorry
you're
about that.
great. I just love you, Terry. You could say anything and I'll just soak it all up. I've always loved you, and I think we all do. So I'm going to keep going if that's
Okay.
okay. I just want to
Okay.
ask you probably one more question and then we'll go ahead and open it up to our participants so they can join in on this discussion as well. So you mentioned that Native theater has been around for a very long time. I remember another Comanche sister telling me 3 words or 4 words: know your place. And I just read this really beautiful book called Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. And it's about the whole system of the caste system being the foundation, and the flesh and bones, the flesh around the skin around that is race, and how that has all been instituted and established. And it makes me think about the way indigenous people say know your place as a visitor and as a tribal member, and how society says know your place as well as a know where you belong and where you don't belong. So that's really interesting that you said that. So I think the last question that I want to go ahead and ask you in relation to this is about your uh, your role as a academic instructor at SIPI. Is there some way that you notice this momentum of playwriting, acting, directing, and producing seeps into your teaching as a teacher in role, doing different parts for depending on the students and where they're at? Or is there a way you're engaging the students in some kind of theatrical process while you're at work?
Not well. I guess we do in ways. I mean, literally, we have a native lit class and we read plays in there. Some terms are nothing but plays, depending on my mood before we start the term. But we're hoping to, when we get back into the building, we're going to be, we're not sure. And now that that vaccine is out, we're still not sure when we'll be back on our campus. And we were thinking by the summer, but maybe not. I'm not sure. So we're kind of up in the air right now. But, I was thinking that the summer, if we're still um, online, I thought I'm going to have my students write something and broadcast it to the campus. And so when we get back, we are supposed to have oh gosh, a Fulbright scholar come from New Zealand. And I'm not sure who it is or anything, but it's an artist. And my supervisor, my department head, is telling me that I'm going to work with them. And so I'm hoping we can do some kind of theater. I'm not sure exactly, again, what type. We haven't, I guess, since the virus came, really we haven't really connected, but we're still going to probably in the spring of 2022. So that's what we're aiming for. But this summer I might get my students to write and see if we can get something up online. And if it's good, I'll put it on. I'll see if they'll let me put it on Facebook. I don't know. But they've written monologues, they write poetry. And then in the class, sometimes I find myself, especially if we're on a really dry topic, trying to enliven the classroom,
Right.
use my acting skills. And, one time one of my students told me, I don't know if I learned anything, but that was very entertaining. I'm like, well, what can I say about how much more can we know about commas, right?
Right.
So, yeah, it does. It happens. And, I try to bring in, well, while we were in person, other poets would come in. And, we saw a lot of people that had graduated from IA. And we even had Joy Harjo come in one time to read for us. And I have the great fortune of knowing a lot of the poets and writers. So, I can bring them on in and let them
Love
read
it.
their work and so forth. So yeah, I think our admin really wants more of the arts because we're a STEM college, which means there's a lot of focus on the math and sciences. But we're finding out, the soft skills like empathy, compassion, and so forth are not being taught unless you consciously do it. So I think if we bring in the arts, that's going to be an opportunity for our students to experience that more. And, a lot of our students come from very impoverished places. So, they don't have a lot of opportunity to see theater and things like that. And even if they want to, maybe they don't have art supplies and so forth. So we're hoping to bring that to the college soon. And when this virus gets out of town,
Yep.
so hopefully that will be soon as well. Gosh.
Yep. Awesome. Well, gosh, Terry, as a former student of yours at Institute of American Indian Arts, when I wrote that play and you read it and you invested your time and energy in it and you told me to keep going, that you believed in it, I can't tell you what that did for me. It made me want to keep going. It wanted me to keep writing because coming from you, I don't know what it was. It was almost like a magic pill. It was like some beautiful corn pollen was put in front of my path to just keep going. You gave me permission as my former instructor. So thank you very much. And I was an older student too already. So it was my second time around at IA. But I want to thank you for all the work you do for our Indigenous youth and all others involved because we can be young and we can be old. We could be 75 years old and going into a playwriting class for the first time and come out
Mhm.
with the best stuff. So
That's
thank you
right.
very much, Terry. You are such a gem, and I'm so glad we have you. Please take care of yourself and stay safe and stay on. We're not done yet. I just got to say a couple of things real quick here.
All right.
Next week, everybody. Wait, first of all, let's give it up for Terry. We're not done yet, but just let's just do this. We're kind of not sure what we're
Thank
doing.
you,
We're just doing
everyone.
it. Thank you very much. So next week we have this amazing speaker coming in, and her name is Ivy, and she's from the Hopi Tewa tribe. She teaches at the Tucson School for the Deaf and Blind, and she is native and deaf-blind. So we're really excited to meet with her next week. That's going to be very interesting. We like to hear all voices. So check out IndigenousWays.org for more information, as well as all our Wisdom Circle and concert series, presenters, and video archives. We would love for you to share this recorded video with everyone, which will be available in the next 48 hours on our website. There you will also find over 68 Indigenous presenters and artists. And please subscribe to our weekly newsletter at IndigenousWays.org, because we love keeping this thing going here. So we also would like to let you know that all our virtual events have ASL interpreters and are free. So we're very grateful for our ASL interpreters, so we can invite our deaf and hard of hearing, Indigenous, and all other communities in. We always like to plug our sponsors. We would not be able to do this without them, so we want to just mention the Native American Advised Fund and our Santa Fe Community Foundation, the New Mexico Arts, and West Staff. We thank you for your support. And we also always like to plug our Indigenous Ways board. Thank you. We love you all. And some of you are with us tonight. Thank you for being with us tonight. And our individual donors, a lot of you are here tonight as well. Just wanted to do a quick catch up on our sixth Black Mesa run. We just got in this morning from Black Mountain, Zligine, and we were up in Oak Ridge and Kitzili, and we went around Lukachukai, and we were able to deliver about 6,000 masks, N95s, medical masks, Navajo-made masks. We delivered water, food, and we also delivered some firewood for some families that really needed it, elders. So thank you all for making that happen. We wouldn't be doing that without you, because you've been supporting our Black Mesa people. We'd like to thank our beautiful brother, Chris Casus. He is from the Beauty Way Foundation, him and his beautiful Danae wife, Brandy. They've gotten involved with our Navajo Nation runs, and they were very much a part of the distribution of the masks and all the protective gear for our people that are up on the mountain, and also responsible for helping our native deaf sister, Lukachukai woman, Arletta. She was without wood, water, food, dog food. Her dogs were starving. And thanks to Chris and the Beauty Way Foundation, we were able to deliver firewood, a generator, a little stove that you can plug into the generator, a lot of food, tons of N95 masks, water, dog food. Between us and the Beauty Way Foundation, we collaborated on this. So Arletta was literally in tears saying, I'm so grateful. I've never had a Christmas like this in my life. So now I just talked to her on the video phone today. I said, have you figured out that generator yet? She goes, no. So we need to go, she needs to get somebody to help her. We'll do that. So otherwise, thank you all for the donators. Thank you for all of those that have supported us for our end of year campaign. You can always go to our Indigenous Ways website and click the donate. Thanks to all of you, our end of year campaign, we did receive $5,600 to support our presenters, artists, and ASL interpreters. And we got to get $1,500 for Black Mountain relief runs to assist with emergency food, water, firewood, PPE to the communities on the Navajo Nation. As we say back home, thank you very, very much. And I wanted to just tell you that you can go to our website or you can mail in the donations if you'd like. And I'd like you all to go ahead and turn on your camera and come on in and let's talk to Terry. We still have a good 20 minutes left.
And while people are turning on their cameras, if you're in our social media and you want to ask Terry a question or just make a comment, please do. While people are sorting themselves out in our Zoom, I just want to thank Terry so much, not only for the walk that you have been doing, but essentially, I couldn't have thought of anyone better to start our series this year. So I also want to address the elephant in the room with what has happened today. There's been a few comments on social media, also in our Zoom, of how insane it is. A lot of you know we started the Indigenous Ways virtual events April 1st last year. We were looking at rising and resilience as how do we do this together as Indigenous people. And, you know, Terry was talking about uh, the the circles coming from her background as an Indigenous empowered Comanche woman, from elders, stories that have been passed down through her lineage, um, and and also in the spiritual sense, but the whole sense of how we do this together. Our theme this year is looking at thriving and purpose, and just the medicine that you shared with us this evening, Terry. Thank you. Not only sharing of the thriving and purpose of what you have been doing, but the medicines that you bring to the classes at SIPI, so we can all take that away, particularly in days like this, or what has happened, particularly with this nation, but how important that is of how we do this together. Doesn't matter what we are in a political field or the color of our skin or our gender, that we are all important and how much we value each and every one of us of how we do this together. So thank you for bringing that message to us this evening.
And I'm going to go down the list. Michelle, would you like to say something from St. Clair Shores, Michigan?
Oh my gosh, I've never been called on. I am so excited to hear your story. And these Indigenous Ways Wisdom Circles have meant so much to me over the last 8, 9, 10 months. I don't know how many months it is. A long time. The COVID era. And I just finished up my political work in Georgia. I was there for 5 days, knocking on doors with the Asian American Advocacy Fund. And a woman from New York City or New York donated her airline miles so that I could go down there and knock on doors. And so I wanted to thank her and thank you, Terry, for bringing in the arts into Native people's mind, and not just from I've got to have art, arts and sciences or whatever, the sciences or trades, but the whole being into the college student. That's wonderful. I teach history myself. I do 18th century history. I've done world history, American history, blah, blah, blah. But thank you very much, Terry.
Thank you for what you were doing in Georgia. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Great to see you.
My next project is for the next 5 years is getting running water to all the humans that live in the United States. Yeah, that's like my thing. That's my thing. And dealing with the fallout from colonialism, whether that be Black Lives Matter or the territories that we currently have. I say bring them in as states or let them go. That's my soapbox.
Oh my gosh.
Very good.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, who wants to speak next before I pick on somebody? All right. Let's
Hey.
hear from Karita Coffee.
I just wanted to say hello to Terry and Terry, I want to say to you that I really appreciate you teaching. I think it's good to have Native teachers out there, and I know it's work. And I know that we don't always see what you go through in your research and your prep and all of that. So I just wanted to say thank you, and also to say hello to your mother for me. I haven't seen her in years, and I've been thinking about her. And that's it for my message.
All right.
All right.
Hi, Karita.
Maroe.
Hi. It's good to see you. Yeah, I will definitely tell her that I saw you on the internet. She's very very alert, very funny still. She was making us laugh, and she knew what's going on. We have to remind her, the pandemic is going on, and she's like, "Oh yeah." But otherwise she's doing really well. Really well. So
Good.
I will definitely tell her. It's good to see you, Karita.
Thanks. You too.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And I just want to give Karita a plug. Karita is also Comanche. Actually, used to be, we were neighbors, which was really wonderful. But Karita will be blessing us on the 20th this month through the Wisdom Circle. She is an extraordinary ceramics sculpture teacher, amazing artist. And whenever I'd go into a place, my mouth would always drop with her extraordinary work that came from her amazing hands and the lineage through her ancestors of what she created.
We love you,
So please
Karita.
make sure
Thank
you
Thank you.
keep booked 6 o'clock the 20th of January.
All right, let's hear from Sarah Young Bear Brown. Sarah Young Bear Brown, do you want to say some words?
Just making sure the interpreter can see me okay. Good evening, folks. Okay, interpreter, you can see me well? Yes. Thank you, Terry, for sharing your story. And I'm proud to share some information that I am part of IA family. My mom is a graduate of IAIA back in 2000. And my mom's name is Mary Youngbear. Not sure if maybe you may have met her or know of her.
I went there from 1992 to 95, and then I went back to finish up in 2002. So I might have just missed her, maybe.
Right, you guys might have just missed ways, but that's okay. Regardless, still, I hope someday that I can go there too and study art. I am really surprised that you are able to work in film. And I would like to learn more about that aspect, because just this summer, Marvel Group in Hollywood are producing a character called Hawkeye, who is deaf, Native American, female. And so they asked me for help, and I was pulled into that, of course, very, very drawn in. But it's good that we found somewhere where they could represent a deaf, Native female in a comic character. And again, it's called Memoini. I think it's the Memoini tribe in Wisconsin. And so that they settled on for the character. So that's very exciting. And just 2 weeks ago, I was chatting with the person who is working in Hollywood, and he's deaf. He's a deaf gentleman. He is white, but he had asked me if I could become an advocate in Hollywood to be able to help them find a deaf Native American for any future needs. And I said, yes, that I'd be thrilled to help with them. So I'm thinking I might need your advice. I might need your mentorship. And I would like to learn more specifically when it comes to film, because I'm not too knowledgeable or experienced in that arena. But if you have any advice or any wisdom to share, we can provide notes back and forth if you can do that for me. Also, the person had mentioned to me as a Native Americans that do film, it's probably 0 to
8%.
0.18%, which is a very small number. Right, every other races are represented in TV shows, but that was a really low percentage for Native Americans. And so I feel like there's more that can be done, and there's more momentum and more awareness that needs to be raised on the issue for Native Americans, so that we can drop Native Americans into Hollywood so they can have representation as well. And again, I was very excited to hear your presentation and hear you share your story. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe Tash, you can connect us. You can give her my email. That would be fine.
This is
And
Tasha's voice. Consider it sent.
okay. And I think, but right before the Corona came, Chris Eyre was talking about opening up the former Camel Rock into a native studio. And I really don't know much more than that. And then, of course, Netflix is here in Albuquerque now. So I think there's going to be a lot more opportunity. I think they're looking for script writers and all different kinds of positions at Netflix, or they will be, because they're moving in. So that might be another opportunity, even locally, to do something. So yeah, sure.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you.
Very
Sarah
good.
Youngbear, I think New Mexico's calling you. Might be time to leave Iowa and come to New Mexico. Sarah, come to New Mexico.
Come on, Sarah.
Anyways, I'm going to call on
Right, it
Alan.
sounds like I need to. Yeah, someday, yes.
All right, let's call on Alan. Alan, would you like to say some words?
I'd just like to thank everyone and to thank you, Terry. I really love your story, and I love what you're doing, and I love that you speak from the heart, and that you're working and encouraging young people for this time, that storytelling is so sacred and the voice of the younger generations is so vital. So I just thank you so much.
Very welcome. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to call on our beautiful sister, Arletta. Arletta is our friend that we went to visit yesterday in Lukachukai, and she's in her house, and she's probably got a kerosene lamp going because she has no electricity. Arletta, do you want to say hi? Oh, she's got a bad Wi-Fi signal. Oh, yeah, there you are. Okay, go ahead.
Just saying hello. Hi.
Hello.
Good to see you, Arletta. We're so grateful you're here, and we see some firewood burning in the background, so yay. Okay, who's next? Missy, would you like to share some words?
Hi, everyone, and hi, Terry. Thank you so much for joining us after a long day of teaching and everything that you do. And it's a lot of energy, I know, that goes into teaching. I did it one summer for the Indian education program and taught some kids how, like, art, like how to weave and beadwork, and I only did it for half a day, but I tell you, after that half a day, I felt like I had all my energy sucked out of me by these kids, and
Yeah.
I used to call them my little vampires. And it's hard work, and I would be like numb after I left for like an hour or two. It's a lot of work to teach, and so I gained a huge respect for teachers after that experience. I mean, I already had a huge respect, but just to understand how much really hard work it takes to be a good teacher, that's really, someone who's dedicated, that puts all their energy into preparing and, and doing the lessons, and then having to work with the students and then grade and all the stuff that goes into it, report cards and everything. And then the creativity, it sounds like that you're putting into it. And then also the just teaching different things that come with the culture and the honor and the just the thoughtfulness and respecting one another is really a beautiful thing. So I think I think it's really great, and I know Tosh has said some really good things about you. So I'm really glad that you were able to join us tonight. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
and go ahead.
our some of our young people, mainly the urban ones, come in, not all of them, but quite a few, and they just don't know anything about, they're right here in the middle of the Navajo, the Dene, and the Apache and the Pueblo population. But a lot of time they don't know the history of the Long Walk. They don't know about the Pueblo Revolt. They don't know other important facts in their history. And so, sometimes we get, the teachers, there's about three of us, there's two other native adjuncts there right now, and we'll get frustrated because instead of, we have to teach English and basic skills sometimes, but when I always bring, our cultural into it, and that's what they write about, but it's really hard because we'll wind up having to teach history at the same time because they just don't know. And there's a big movement now. I hope you've all noticed of our young people really fighting for rights and getting out there, putting themselves out there and participating. But we still have, quite a large group that they're just not interested. So anything that we can do to make them understand, and I'm an elder now, so I can say that. But if we can get them involved and interested in our culture, so just for themselves, their own identity, so they don't lose that, because I needed it. I needed my culture when I was coming up, because all kind of things would happen, a lot involving race and racism, and just even people. When I first went to SIPI, there was a man there that had been teaching there for years, and he was coming through, and he was like, oh, you're going to be needing this, and he had one of those high school anthologies, and I said, what is this for? And he said, for Native Lit. And it had, those old speeches by non-native politicians who would talk about Indian people somewhere and things like that. And I'm like, well, isn't this a high school book? And he's like, yeah, but these people aren't going to go very far. They can't. And I was like, OMG, what did you just say? So I told him, yeah, they will. You watch them. And he's like,
Right
I'm
on.
telling you, they're not going to get it. And I'm like, I'm throwing this book away. And I did. And,
Oh,
got us up to speed. And so we have Native people. We have a Native librarian came in and changed the entire library around and made it more beneficial for our students. But we really do have to encourage them to hold their culture and be close to it, because a lot of them were not raised with it. They were single parent families, their moms working and not able to take them to, ceremony and things like that. So it's very important that we, really um, try to do our best for our kids, because some of them are lost. And, we try to pull them back in the best we can and try to help them. So it's a lot of work. But
awesome.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you so much, Terry. Unfortunately, everybody, this hour has gone by so fast today, and it is up. It's the top of the hour, and we're going to have to say, I like to say, instead of saying goodbye, I like to say, hello, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday. And we want to thank our beautiful interpreters. Thank you, Cress and Zoel. And those of you that did not have an opportunity to talk to our beautiful sister, Terry, send us a message and we'll send her a message. Or if you want us to give you her contact, we'll pass it on. We're really good communicators, me and Elena. And we want to thank all of you for taking your precious time out in this crazy day to take a deep breath and realize that we are resilient and we rise and we thrive and we have purpose and we're still here, or we're going to continue to be here. Rachel Pablo, thank you very much, sister. Give us a call after this. Richard, thank you very much. Richard wants to say something real quick. Hey, Richard.
I just want to, well, I'd like to say a whole bunch I wrote down, but I won't do it today. But I just want to ask you, if you send me Bill Miller's address, I must have missed it. Please send me so I can send that guy a little dinero.
Oh, thank you,
It's good
Richard.
to
Yeah,
see
well,
you,
you
Richard.
guys, I know you guys are busy as hell. So, you know, when you remember, please send me Bill. You got my address, right? My email address.
We
So,
will just pop it in the chat box,
Pop it in the
Richard,
chat
and we'll
box real
take it
quick.
out.
well,
But we'll
okay,
send
if you
that
do it
to
real
you.
quick.
Thank you.
All right.
And we so appreciate everyone's time blessing us this evening, whether you're in Zoom, whether you're in the social media, or if you're looking at the recording of this. Thank you so much. But most importantly, please, let's give it up for the beautiful Terry Gomez.
Woo! Yay!
Thanks, everybody. Thank you for putting up with me. All right.
Easy peasy. Okay, everyone, be well, be safe. We'll see you here next week with the beautiful Ivy from Tewa Nation and Hopi. And also, please stay safe, be well. We'll be quarantining because we've just got back. And then we'll be looking forward to our 7th trip up to Black Mountain to take more emergency supplies. We'll tell you more about that. But one more time, let's give it up for Terry Gomez.
Thanks, everyone.